is up, everybody? We got some weekly Q&A. Just a quick little announcement that for those of you guys, I've gotten a lot of messages lately from those of you guys who are, new to the business in the last 2 years. And I put together a little training from our man Abul on going from basically 0 to 6 figures and walking through the path for that. I tend to, a lot of the people in our mastermind who are awesome people, I tend to help them when they've reached the 5 to 20 client range and really expand that and do that without meetings and phone calls. But for those of you guys who are in the 0 to 5 client range, you'll want to check out that training by Abul. It's on the YouTube channel as well, so you can check that out whenever. Other than that, let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. That's me, by the way, with my 1990s wrestling homage. First, we got Danielle. Danielle says, what is the best advice you have received that has helped you grow your agency? Ooh, Danielle, I'll tell you the best advice I received was not necessarily in word form. It's not like somebody sat me down and said, well, my daddy always told me and his daddy always told him, and that's why I do this. It was mostly like when I really got the chance to work with some OGs, some original gangsters. I can remember one of my mentors, Ken, who owns a law firm. And by the way, there's more similarities in a law firm and an agency than most people would realize. They're both servicing people. It's actually 95% the same. The 5% deliverable is very different, but the how you treat people, how you bring them in, how you set expectations, how you generate referrals, how you pick a niche, all of that is really the same. And Ken used to go golfing and fishing, and he would party a lot, and he would go to the fanciest restaurants. And I got a chance to work hand in hand with him for 3 to 4 months and just see how he ran his business. And he would literally just be on the golf course and write down 5 or 10 really amazing ideas, fax them to the office, and then come back at the end of the week to see how those ideas were progressing and turning them into projects. And it really blew my mind for what was possible, because he lived the lifestyle in extreme, and here he was having a multiple 7-figure law practice, and it really showed me how this business can really be. So I don't know if it was necessarily word advice, but I learned a shit ton from a few examples of that, of mentors of mine. Bongikosi, I hope I'm saying your name right. One of my clients' ad account got hacked. I woke up to see their ad account was disabled because of a failed payment of the ad spend, and ads were added to in the ad account that I didn't make. I contacted Facebook support, and they said they will get back to me in 24 to 48 hours. If this has ever happened to one of your clients, will they get a refund from Facebook? It has happened to me and my clients. And yes, you will get a refund, but just understand Facebook ad support is generally, how do I say this nicely, fucking terrible. And so understand it'll probably take longer than the 24 to 48 hours they quote you, but you will get a refund, and you will have to contact them to get back in your account and to reset everything, but it will get restored to normal. So I feel for you, brother. That really, it sucks when it happens, but it's just part of the deal, my friend. Alex says, Are here any LinkedIn experts? My LinkedIn account was permanently banned a few months ago. I was using it for prospecting, was viewing around 30 LinkedIn profiles of leads every day. LinkedIn gave me warnings not to use automation tools, even though I did not use any. Now, whenever I try to create a new account, they just simply ban it in 1 to 2 days. Does anyone know why this might be the case? Might it be that I'm using the same device I used before to create my old account? Might it be that I use the same IP? Might it be that my name on the new accounts I'm trying to make is the same as the old account? Tried to reach out to their support, but they just gave me an email with the case is closed and saying I violated their terms, so I pretty much have no way to get any assistance from them. Yeah, Alex, that sounds like the big social media. I feel for you. Back in the days when I used to do a lot of SEO, I created a lot of different accounts. It's just part of the job. You got to create a little... you got to register on the bookmarking sites and the article submission sites and the Web 2.0 sites and all of those things. So I'll tell you what helped us. You can have a VPN, so you can be at a different location. That'll probably make a big difference, especially a paid one where it's not everybody's using the same address. It'll cost you probably about $5 a month. VPN. You can use a different email address, and I would suggest using a different browser and logging in some kind of incognito so it doesn't have all the bookmarks saved. But if you have a new email address, new location, and all of that, you should be able to bypass those things. But it sucks you got your account banned, and it sounds like it was a big part of your lead generation strategy, so I feel you there. Justin, this is one of my favorite questions. What's the best way to give ad reports to clients? Justin, I've mentioned this before. So most client reports have the opposite effect of what people intend, which is you want to give them an ad report and you want your clients to be happy and you want them to stay and you want to demonstrate your value. And I'll tell you, I did it for the first 7 years of my SEO agency. I did 100% custom reports. They took a lot of work, and I would go through one by one and analyze all their keywords and show them how they were moving. And I'll tell you, it was a real pain in the ass. And at some point, I guess maybe not for for 5 years, I made custom reports. At some point, I started switching to tools that made it, using different automated software and things like that. And regardless of whether I did the custom or the software, the same question would come up again and again when they would say, well, this is nice, but what the fuck does it mean? Right? Because it was like hieroglyphs, they didn't understand the language, and even like basic things that mean a lot to you, like click-through rate, and number of clicks, and number of opt-ins, and number of leads. All of those things are actually confusing metrics to most business owners, especially if you deal a lot with brick and mortar. And one day, a client said, can you just tell me what we're doing, why we're doing it, how it's going? So I made a little video. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it, and here's how it's going. The video is like 2 or 3 minutes long. Back in those days, I used Camtasia or Jing. I don't remember which one, but one of the two. And I sent it to them, and they said, this is great. Can you send me this every month? And I started to realize I was getting the same questions from clients again, and I switched over to those little 2-3 minute videos. And I'll tell you why this is so important. For 2 reasons. If clients get reports from you that they don't understand, which is largely the case, then they don't know what they're buying from you, and that makes them uneasy and less likely to buy again in the future. And then secondly, is if they're unclear about it, what they're going to do is they're going to demand meetings, and they're going to demand meetings on their own time. So when you have like 5 clients, it's not a big deal, but when you have like 50 or 100 clients and they all want fucking meetings and phone calls, your whole schedule can just be interrupted all day long. Like I'd be on a Sunday with a family, hold on honey, I got to just explain the SEO report to a client. And so by doing it with these little videos that explain, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, here's how it's going, and I would also add like, here's what you can expect next. What will happen is that those questions will just disappear and the meetings will disappear, and you can do it on your own time. So I can knock out all our client reports 2 hours on a Friday, and instead of having it take like 18 meetings throughout the week. So that's my big breakthrough on client ad reporting. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, but I've moved more and more away from tools and more just like real world. Here's what we're up to, here's how it's going, and clients love it in my general experience. So I would suggest doing it, because just try it, you'll see it really works. Tam, how much time would you recommend, or are you working on a business deep focus hours? Love this question, my friend. How much time should you work on the business? I would say it depends where you're at in the journey. Like obviously, like once you have employees and staff and teams, you should almost spend all your time working on the business. But even in the beginning, you should be identifying your biggest problem or your biggest constraint and working at it at least 50% of the time. And so what I suggest is actually booking aside time that is just work on the business that is not in it. No email, no phone, no Skype, no Messenger. Take your biggest constraint and work at it. You'll be amazed at what you can accomplish in like 90 days or 180 days if you don't have the constraint of having to deal with like putting out fires. Can you do this for me? Can you do that? Your business will be a much better business. So I would say like at least 10-20 hours a week you need to be putting like deep focus time. And the more you can do that, the better your business will be. You'll think about things to add to the clients and all those kind of things that just make it better. Nikki Two Angels. When you're doing cold outreach, do you have an email that's your business email? Like for instance, I have an email address, but it's only a nickname. Would it be better to have an email address that name has to do with dental marketing? Nikki Two Angels, this is one of those forest, trees, leaves kind of questions. Everything you do in a sequence of contacting somebody makes a difference. But not all of those things make a difference equally. So like we've mentioned, the forest, the big picture stuff that really dramatically changes the results. The trees are the medium-sized things that will obviously change the results a medium-sized amount. And there are leaves, little things that obviously matter but aren't going to change the difference whole. Like I'll see people like have a bad offer and split test green button versus red button. Or should I use this image or that image for something nobody wants, right? And so, yeah, it makes a difference, but it's going to be minimal. So this is one of those, probably I would put it as one of the leaves or one of the, maybe a tree, medium-sized thing. But if you're trying to break through a dentist, the biggest thing is just like figure out how to say something meaningful to a dentist. That have some like an offer that's meaningful to a dentist, that will be far more important than which email address. Those are things we think about because we think it makes a great deal of difference. But if you could see the dentist's inbox, there's probably like 100 messages like yours every day. They don't read them all super carefully. They don't, it's just not that important. They get pitched all day long. So a lot of times we stress over an email that they have forgotten like 6 seconds after we sent it. So what's really, really key is nail your offer and your whole thing will get easier. You want to make your sales go downhill, my friend, which is what the offer does. Joseph, let's talk landing pages. Weird thought, but I feel like ugly landing pages convert better than beautifully developed ones. Does anyone else know what I mean? I had a short and simple page with very little design, just straight to the point with content with good call to action. Then I had a page professionally developed for me. Great design, great content, not too flashy, but still a great call to action, but it's performing worse. What's everyone's thoughts on this? If level of C2 action remains equal, do you like to keep your landing pages short or longer with more content? Thanks, everyone. Joseph, my man, obviously it'll depend a little bit on what the function of the page is, but my experience is very similar to yours. Is short, ugly, to the point landing pages work better than highly professionally designed. Unless that design is functional, it's almost always the short, ugly ones convert better. It's kind of funny too because I was recently talking to a prominent agency podcast and they asked for my website, and my websites are all like short, ugly, to the point call to actions, and they're like, oh, this can't be an agency website. You can't be a successful agency with that kind of website. And of course they're wrong. But nonetheless, I was actually not allowed on the show because my website didn't look believable enough. And Dan Kennedy tells actually a really funny story about in his mastermind where one of the guys in his mastermind figured out that these short little ugly landing pages work with no design, just copy. And what he found was they were selling so well that in their like country club, everybody wanted to know what they were doing, and it was a furniture place, and people would look at their websites and go, oh my god, this is hideous. So they actually had to get a $50,000 brochure that's embossed and beautiful and like raised font and all those things just to show at the country club because they were embarrassed to show their ugly websites. But simple websites convert. It's not necessarily ugly, it's simple, to the point. We actually use lead pages now for all our landing pages, and they make pretty landing pages, but it's not that they're pretty or that they're ugly, it's that they're simple and to the point, right? If you want to think about just one thing, like if you have a landing page that's designed to get an opt-in, then the biggest thing that's going to make a difference is what you are giving away. So you want to spend your time thinking about that and not obsessing over logos and colors. Like I'll tell you, man, the amount of time entrepreneurs obsess about logos, like I'll see people post 27 logo variations that almost all look identical and say, which one do you like? And the reality is nobody fucking cares, right? Like for the most part, like, yeah, okay, if you're building a $100 million brand, then your branding and your logo and stuff is going to matter. But mostly what's going to make a difference is what you're giving away on the damn page, right? Like people aren't stupid. So focus on that and you'd be surprised. Like you can make a little quick landing page that's done in 5 minutes that really, really sells your stuff well. So that's been my experience. I'm not saying that's the only experience on it. I have seen like pretty landing pages that convert. And obviously the longer and more comprehensive and more expensive the thing you're selling is, probably the longer the pages need to be. Like for example, if you're selling a $2.99 ebook, then the copy to sell that is going to be shorter than if you're selling, a $30,000 mastermind or something like that. So the page will depend a little bit on that, but mostly short, ugly, to the point with a great offer works. Ashutosh, I need to break free from referrals. What's the best way to do outbound for a VR, AR development agency? Our main clients are custom projects with marketers. Ashutosh, it depends a lot on your niche and what you want. Like, okay, so I've mentioned this a lot in other people, and this will be beneficial to you guys who have this, is whatever you sell is like a hammer. And nobody ever wakes up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat and says, what I need is a hammer. Because a hammer is a tool that builds something, and they're mostly trying to do two things. They're trying to fix the problem of things that aren't working, and they're trying to create something out of this hammer, right? So you mentioned, okay, I have a virtual assistant, okay, agency. Well, virtual assistants can do a lot of things, and I'll give you an example of the most successful virtual assistant agency I know in my niche. They are called Alert Communications, and they serve a really simple function which is in the law niche. There's a bunch of lawyers who generate phone calls, and they spend a lot of money doing that. And sometimes people call after hours, meaning like the law firm is open from 9 till 5. At 5:01, somebody calls, they can't answer the phone. They call all the way till the next morning at 8:59. Alert Communications uses their virtual assistant to answer your phone so that you can have 24/7 coverage. They're an okay service. They're not terrible. They're not great. They do a halfway decent job answering the phones. They don't have like tons of sales training. I would bet Alert Communications probably like $100 million a year company. I don't know if they're quite that big, but they're a really, really, really fucking big agency. And the key with it is they figured out a specific niche function that everybody needs to be able to use their tool for. So my question for you is, if your niche is agency owners, what do agency owners need most? And I'll tell you what's really hot right now, and I wouldn't suggest necessarily selling this, but there's a ton of people who are looking to use virtual assistants for outreach and things like that. If you can walk people in the door, preset, pre-trained, knowing what to do, you're going to have some good luck with virtual assistants and all of those things. What's key is you got to figure out what your people are trying to build with that. What do they actually want to use those virtual assistants? And the best way to look at this is just to look at your best paying clients now. What are they asking you to do with their virtual assistants? I would just build an agency out of that, right? Like that's what you want to do. And so there's always like clues in this game. But where most people get it wrong is they say, hammers, who wants hammers? And it's very different to say, we'll help you build and renovate your kitchen using this hammer, right? If you're a home builder, we'll help you renovate your kitchen, or we'll help you renovate kitchens faster with a hammer, right? That's a very different thing. So you got to be really clear. And I've used the analogy before, but this also helps explain this concept, which is, instead of using the hammer analogy, it's also like a plane ride, right? A plane can go anywhere. A plane can take you to, 200 different countries and all kinds of different cities within those countries. Nobody buys a plane ride or a plane ticket because they just love planes. Okay, maybe there's like the occasional person, but for the most part, like people are sick of the office, they're sick of the work, and they need a break from that, and they want to go to the beach and have a beer and see bikinis, and they want to drink out of a coconut and have some sunshine, right? So instead of selling the plane ride, which is like what 99% of agency owners are selling, you sell the hatred of the office, and you sell the beautiful beach and the sunshine and the beer and the bikinis. So for you, you got to figure out what agency owners are hiring you to do, what they hate doing, or what they're trying to build. And then you sell a tool to do that or a system to do that. And what you'll find is suddenly your hammer will get a whole lot sexier. But if you just say, hey, I'm selling hammers, come buy virtual assistants from me, you're going to have a really hard time selling that. You'll get priced per hour. Instead, figure out what they're trying to do, figure out where there's a need in the marketplace, fulfill that, and get really good at it. So that's kind of like really the way to sell anything. And I think that's all the questions we got. Just again, another announcement. Been getting a lot of questions from those of you guys who are trying to get from 0 to your first 5 clients and really get to like consistent 6 figures a year, which I think is a first big milestone in your agency. For me, that meant I never needed a job again when we hit those numbers. And I know a lot of you guys are working at that. So check out the training from Abul in the group. He's got some awesome stuff, and it's really a lot about what we talked about: simplifying, choose your niche, be really clear about what you offer. Get in front of those people and work at it and build the systems in place so that you have like a real agency that sustains itself. So that's all I got for you guys this week. Short, wasn't a ton of questions, but much love for you guys. May the force be with you, and I'll put the replay of this on YouTube.